Hey everyone, happy Halloween. Welcome back to BDG Reviews. It's night 31, 31 days before our last day. So I decided to do something. When I did this last year, I couldn't really think what to do for the 31st day, so I did a retrospective of the Halloween series. This time I'm doing a retrospective of the Exorcist series. How I'm going to do this is I'm going to go from what I feel is worst right through to best. And I'll just briefly talk about why I feel they are such, and I'm also gonna, I don't know how long this video is gonna be. We'll just have to find out. So let's get started. The Exorcist. This is the version I have. It's the complete anthology on Blue. I also have Exorcist 3 on the Scream Factory Blue. So, I dig The Exorcist. Honestly, I watch The Exorcist every Devil's Night. Without fail. Every year. So yeah, I'll start off with my thoughts on the series as a whole. The Exorcist is a series that... There are certain series around that... How can I put this? Could have stopped with one. Jaws, Psycho. There are a few, and The Exorcist definitely falls in that category. Because, this is hardly a surprise to say, nothing has lived up to the original Exorcist. So it's a bit of a mixed bag when it comes to a series. A lot of people, I feel, watch the first movie and are just like, that's it. That's enough. The story's told. Let's run with that. And that's fine. If you want to watch the sequels as well, it is what it is. What makes The Exorcist scary, because I, to this day, believe that The Exorcist is possibly one of, if not the single most scariest movies ever made. And the reason it is something that some people have mentioned this before, but what makes The Exorcist frightening is a thought. And that thought is, what if? Okay? It's kind of the same reason that Pet Sematary is scary. Where, the thought of, like, what if this time it'll be different? What makes The Exorcist scary is the thought of, what if this is real? What if this actually happens? And what makes it scary that way is the fact, zombies are more than likely never going to rise from the grave and start eating people. More than likely you're probably not going to be chased down by a hockey mask wearing serial killer. But every religion that's ever existed has had belief in evil spirits. They've had a belief in evil. They've had a belief in possession. Every religious system, at least that I'm aware of, has some form of that. Now, it's not always, the devil. It's not always, like, demons or anything like that. But it's always been there in every... I think, with the exception of, atheistic type religions, if there is a belief system, more than likely it has elements of evil, it has elements of possession, it has elements of things beyond that we don't get, and they have their own reasons for doing things, and we just don't get them. So that's what makes it scary. It taps into that primal, fear of something out there coming in to attack you, and you have no defense against it. Because it's not a guy with a knife. who you could, in theory, fight off. It's not a zombie that you could put a bullet through its head. It's not a vampire that you could drive a stake through its heart. It's something completely different and completely antithetical to everything that you believe and everything that you've ever believed. So that's what makes The Exorcist scary. I never found, like I've said before, I'm not a religious guy. You know, if you have your beliefs, more power to you. Run with them. So the whole, like the Catholic exorcism and everything, it's always been kind of just like fantasy, like role play to me. That's how I've always seen it. If you believe it, good for you. You know what? More power to you. Have fun. But so as someone who's essentially, I'll say agnostic on the situation. You know, the whole religious aspect of it never really. It was never a big deal to me. Someone who is Catholic might see like The Exorcist and be completely shocked and appalled and everything. I'm not that guy, you know. So yeah, that's my basic thoughts on what makes The Exorcist scary and why it's so effective as like a movie. Now we're gonna get into my rankings. I'm gonna go, like I said, back to front. So essentially, worst, second worst, third worst. You know how it is. So the single worst Exorcist film ever made, Exorcist 2: The Heretic. This movie's got so many problems, I don't even know where to start. This is a movie, honestly, I have the Blu-ray in this set. I have never watched it. And I won't. I've seen it before. I really disliked it, and I just have no interest in seeing it again. Which is a bit of a shame because of that name, Exorcist 2: The Heretic. I just really like that name. But it failed on all counts. It took, a sequel to The Exorcist, a movie that didn't need a sequel, and it gave it one. And it's pointless. Everything that happens in it is lame. All the quote-unquote scares, pretty much, are just throwbacks to the original. Either scenes ripped off from it, or just directly ripped from it. It's trash. It has no redeeming value at all. So, I leave that one. That is dead last. That is like 0 out of 10. That is utter garbage. Just leave it alone. Next up, we have Exorcist: The Beginning. The problem with Exorcist: The Beginning is the same problem that happened with Exorcist 2. Some bright spark at the production company thought, you know what, we'll do an Exorcist movie. Okay. We'll throw everything in it that was in the first movie that worked. No. You throw in these scenes that just, it's not scary. It has an interesting premise, but of course that premise comes from another director. So, what are you gonna do, right? Who was it that directed? Was it Rennie Harlan? Yeah, it was Rennie Harlan that directed The Beginning, and I can't fault him. He was brought on after a movie was already finished, and essentially said, we want something more akin to the first movie. So he, like any good hired hand, that's exactly what he did. He went in and he made a movie with a ton of shoutbacks to the original. You know, a similar looking makeup on the possessed chick at the end and everything, and a lot of the same beats that were in the original. Acting wise, it was fine. Nothing wrong with it. You know, cinematography was okay. Every part of it was just okay, but it was just a mediocre Exorcist ripoff. Honestly, if you'd called it something like, I don't know, like Exorcism in Kenya or something like that, and just not even put the Exorcist name there, you'd see it as an Exorcist ripoff, and you'd be okay. It is what it is. You know, but I am not a fan of the beginning. It's like a 2 out of 10. It's not good. Now we start getting into the better ones. The next one on my list is Dominion, prequel to The Exorcist. I love Dominion. Does it have its issues? Yes, it does. Bad CG being one of the main things, but it does something that most possession movies doesn't do. I mean, a bit of history on it, just before I get into that. Dominion was made, Paul Schrader directed it, and essentially, I think it was Morgan Creek. Was Morgan Creek the release? I don't know. The people who were releasing it, they saw it and they're like, we don't like this. We want something more close to the original Exorcist, and then you get Exorcist the Beginning. But the movie was like 99% done at this point. And due to some wise contract negotiation, they had to release it. And honestly, I saw Exorcist the Beginning first. I saw that in the theater, actually. Then I saw Dominion when they released that on DVD, and it completely turned everything on its head. That should have been the movie to get a theatrical release. What it does is it's something that you don't see often in possession films, and that's the fact that, how can I put this? It's something I've seen in a few movies, but never properly explored, and that's the fact that, well, you have the demon that's possessing everyone. The guy that it possesses in this movie, he's like a crippled guy. He's got like a messed up arm and a messed up leg, and it makes him better. It makes him, you see when in like his full possessed form, it's, I don't know if beautiful is the right word, but the idea that you see this possession happen and you're like, yeah, I can see that this is like a former angel, you know, that, you know, it doesn't change the nature of the beast just because it goes a different way. If you take like if you take a wolf and all of a sudden it's not like acting like a wolf anymore, it's acting like a dog and like a puppy, and it's running around doing everything, it's still a fucking wolf. So Satan is still an angel, so it would, I always thought, like in a possession type thing, it would come across that way. That's just me though. All in all, Dominion is the superior prequel to The Exorcist. Everything about it, with the exception of some crappy CG, is good. For a rating, I give it 7 out of 10. And you see here, I've jumped up from a 2 for Exorcist the Beginning to a 7. That's a pretty big jump. But is what it is. That's just how it works. Now, my next favorite one, The Exorcist 3. Now, Exorcist 3 is a strange case because I first saw that when I was a kid, and honestly, I didn't like it. I found it boring. I found, with the exception of the one scene, and anyone who's seen the movie, you know the scene I'm talking about. I found it just dull. I found it lifeless, and everything. Maybe it's just the fact I was a kid. I wanted, like, I wanted spinning heads and vomit flying everywhere, and you don't get that in The Exorcist 3. What you get in The Exorcist 3 is a really solid spiritual successor to The Exorcist. It's not even really the same type of movie. The theatrical version has an exorcism thrown in because, literally, again, the studio said, well, it's called The Exorcist, we need an exorcism in it. Just be glad that the director's cut exists, because I really dig the director's cut. The acting is perfect all around. It has some genuinely creepy, disturbing scenes. It has a great bit of acting by Brad Dourif. I mean, honestly, you can put him in anything and he just steals the show. Great atmosphere, great soundtrack. Everything works in The Exorcist 3. It's a superior sequel. It is the sequel that The Exorcist deserved. Let's put it that way. For rating, it's 9 out of 10. It is a great piece of film work. Honestly, if you haven't seen The Exorcist 3, you're doing yourself a disservice. You have to see it. You have to. It's not a question of, oh, I'd like to see that. No, it's a question of, like, go out and see it now. So there. And last, but definitely not least, my favorite of all the movies, The Exorcist. And I'm including both versions, both the theatrical and the quote-unquote version you've never seen. They both work. They're both superior bits of filmmaking. And everything is right. They're both S-class films, and you can't go wrong. It's just good shit. It really is. The acting is phenomenal from everyone involved. I mean, how many movies have you seen that have a child actor in it, and you're inwardly cringing whenever you see them on screen? You don't cringe when you see Linda Blair. You believe that character. And every part of it is just pitch perfect. The makeup effects are phenomenal. Even, like, scenes that they cut, that they put back in for the version you've never seen, just enhance what's already there. It's a great movie. I'd venture to say The Exorcist is a perfect movie. There's very few movies that you could consider perfect. The Exorcist is one of them. And it just works. Yeah. So, that's my list, I'd mention the TV series, but I watched a bit of the first season, and that was kind of it. I thought it was an interesting way to go about it, but again, it seemed very much to me to be a case of, we're trying to ride this train as far as we can. And maybe it's just a matter of it shouldn't have been made, maybe? I don't know. And of course we got a remake coming. I'll give it a shot, but my expectations are very low. Because how do you remake a masterpiece? You don't. You don't. And I mean, this is coming from a guy that enjoyed the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. This is coming from a guy that enjoyed the Halloween remake. I'm not 100% opposed to remakes, but you gotta have a reason for it, and you got to do something different. And honestly, there are some stories that should just be left alone. The Exorcist is one. I just hope when they do get it made, I hope that they are true enough to the source material without being a direct copy, and without shitting on our memory. Because The Exorcist is something special. Always has been. And it should be kept that way. Yeah. So, there you go. That is the last episode of the 2021 31 Days of Horror. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been a bit of a tough month to deal with. Honestly, it's been a lot of reviews. I've tried to get stuff out that you've never seen before, that I've never reviewed before. You know, obviously you can't always do it, but hopefully you've found some gems, and hopefully you found a few to avoid as well. And yeah, that's it for me. See you next time.